Imagine standing on a quiet railway platform, just past midnight. The fog is thick, the air feels heavy, and in the distance, you hear it. The sound of a train approaching. The train screeches into the station, wheels grinding against steel. You wait for the doors to open, for passengers to spill out, but no one comes. Car after car, row after row, empty. Luggage left behind, seats still warm. Newspapers scattered across the floor, as if the passengers had vanished only seconds ago. This is not just a story, this is a mystery. Because on that night, the train arrived, but every single passenger was gone. Where did they go? Was it an accident? A crime? Or something far more terrifying? Tonight, we uncover the mystery of the empty midnight train, and once you hear it, you'll never forget it. The story begins in a small town, the kind most people drive through without noticing. Quiet, sleepy, forgotten by time. But for the people who live there, one night would change everything. It was just after midnight when the night train was due. A train that connected several rural towns, carrying workers, families, and strangers from across the country. For many, it was an ordinary journey. For some, it would be their last. As the train rolled into the station, the conductor expected the usual. Tired passengers stepping out, people greeting loved ones, the bustle of movement. But instead, the station was silent. The train stood still, and no one stepped off. Cautiously, the station master approached the nearest carriage. He expected noise, chatter, footsteps. Instead, the only sound was the faint hum of electricity in the lamps above. He climbed aboard, and what he saw would haunt him for the rest of his life. The seats were still warm. Coats and bags were scattered across the floor, as if dropped in a hurry. Half-eaten meals sat on small trays. A baby's toy lay in the aisle, and on one table, a newspaper. The date read, "Today." It was as though the passengers had simply vanished in an instant. Car after car, the same. No people, no bodies, no answers. Only the chilling evidence that moments before, the train had been full of life. By 1 a.m., authorities had arrived. Police officers, lanterns in hand, searched every inch of the train. The engine was still running, the fuel intact, but there was no driver, no crew, no passengers. An entire trainload of people had disappeared, without a trace. The townsfolk gathered at the platform, whispering theories, clutching loved ones. Some said it was a mass kidnapping. Others swore it was something far stranger, paranormal. But no one could deny the truth. The train had arrived, and every passenger was gone. The train stood motionless at the platform, its windows dark, its silence unbearable. The townsfolk whispered nervously, while officers boarded car after car, searching for clues. But the deeper they looked, the stranger the mystery became. The police are investigating everywhere, first investigating inside the train. Inside, nothing seemed broken or forced. No shattered glass, no blood, no signs of struggle. And yet, it felt wrong. Every object seemed frozen in time. Dinner plates half finished, drinks still cold, a chessboard mid-game. pieces unmoved. One officer whispered, "It's like they vanished between breaths." Next, the abandoned luggage. In the baggage car, suitcases lay stacked neatly. Passports, IDs, money untouched, all belonging to the passengers who should have been there. A small diary was found, belonging to a woman named Clara Jensen. Her last entry read, "The lights flickered again tonight. Some of the passengers are uneasy, but the conductor says it's nothing." That was her final word. Next, witness testimony. Investigators turned to the only people who might have answers: railway workers stationed along the line. One reported seeing the train hours earlier, packed with passengers, children waving from windows, an elderly man smoking a pipe, a young couple laughing in the dining car. But somewhere between the last station and here, they were gone, and no one saw them leave. Next, the missing crew. The conductor's cabin offered no explanation. The controls were untouched, brakes engaged, fuel gauges steady, but the conductor, the engineer, the staff, all gone. Their logbook ended mid-sentence. 12:47 a.m. Strange humming sound near... The pen trailed off, as though ripped from the page. Next, the theories begin. The town buzzed with speculation. Some claimed it was a government cover-up. Others whispered of alien abduction, a mass disappearance too perfect to be human. But the elders spoke of something else. An old legend, a phantom train that steals souls under the cover of night. They called it the Empty Line. And now, the townspeople feared it had arrived. The investigation had only begun, but already, it was clear. This was no ordinary disappearance. The truth behind the missing passengers was far darker than anyone imagined. Then, the train was towed into the railway yard for closer inspection. Engineers, detectives, and even military officials swarmed the scene. But what they found inside only deepened the nightmare. The car that shouldn't exist. As inspectors moved through each car, one of them froze. The train had an extra carriage. It wasn't on the manifest. It wasn't part of the design. Yet, there it stood, connected seamlessly, as though it had always been there. The walls were lined with mirrored glass. Every reflection warped, stretched, wrong. And in the glass, some swore they saw faint shadows. Passengers seated, smiling faintly, though no one was there. The unnatural cold. The air inside the mysterious carriage was freezing. So cold, investigators' breath fogged instantly. But outside, the night was mild. One officer wrote in his report, "The cold isn't natural. It's as though the heat has been drained, stolen." And when they placed a thermometer inside, the needle didn't stop at 0. It plunged below. The bloodstains. In the dining car, tucked beneath a tablecloth, investigators found stains. Dark, dried, blood. It led to the end of the car, and then vanished. No body, no trace, just silence. The missing time. When the train's onboard clocks were checked, every one of them showed the same time. 12:47 a.m., the exact time the conductor's logbook stopped. Watches belonging to the passengers, recovered from their abandoned luggage, all frozen at the same moment. 12:47 a.m. The moment time itself seemed to have stopped. The phantom voice. While documenting the site, one investigator left an audio recorder running. When played back, it revealed something chilling. Beneath the sound of footsteps, beneath the shuffle of papers, a voice. Faint. Whispering. Repeating 3 words. "We are here." But no one had spoken those words that night. The warning symbol. Finally, carved into the floor of the mysterious carriage was a symbol. Circular. Jagged lines branching outward. Historians later claimed it resembled an ancient protection mark, one used to trap spirits or seal curses. But if it was meant as protection, it had failed. The discoveries inside the train yard left investigators shaken. An impossible carriage. Frozen time. Whispers from nowhere. This was no ordinary disappearance. The question now wasn't just where the passengers had gone, but what had taken them. The investigation of the train revealed impossible details, but perhaps the most terrifying evidence came not from the train itself, but from the people who claimed to have seen the passengers after they vanished. The woman on the platform. A week after the disappearance, a station worker in a nearby town filed a report. He swore he saw a woman on the empty platform late at night. She was dressed in outdated clothes, the same style as passengers from the vanished train. She clutched a ticket in her hand. When he approached, she turned to him, her face pale, her eyes wide, her mouth opening as though to scream, but no sound came out. The next moment, she was gone. 2 months later, a truck driver reported something stranger. On a dark highway near the old tracks, he saw figures walking in the road. Dozens of them. Men, women, children, all in outdated clothing. He swerved to avoid them, slamming on his brakes. But when his headlights cut through the night, the road was empty. When questioned, he insisted he recognized the faces. Faces he later saw in the newspaper, listed among the missing passengers. Then, a little girl, barely 6 years old, told her parents she had made a new friend. She described a boy who wore old clothes and smelled like smoke. When shown the photos of the missing passengers, she pointed immediately to a child listed on the manifest. A boy who had vanished with the train. Her parents said she never spoke of him again. But late at night, they swore they heard her whispering to someone in her room. Someone who wasn't there. Then, audio tape. Perhaps the most disturbing account came from an old radio operator. He intercepted a signal one evening. A faint, broken transmission that seemed to echo across static. It sounded like voices. Dozens of voices. Men, women, children, all speaking at once. And in the chaos, one phrase cut through clearly. The train never stopped. The final eyewitness. Years later, a retired detective who worked on the case gave a final interview. He said he quit the force after what he saw one night. Walking past the railway yard, he glanced through the chain-link fence. Inside the derelict carriage, he swore he saw passengers. All of them. Sitting silently, staring forward, frozen in place. And in the very back, a figure smiled at him. Not a passenger, but something else. That was the last time I ever went near the train, he said. I knew, then. Those people never left, and neither did what took them. The survivors' accounts revealed one truth. The passengers were not gone. They were trapped. Between worlds. Between time. Still waiting. On a train that should never have arrived. When the empty train rolled into the station, the world was left with one question. Where did they all go? Over the decades, countless theories have tried to explain what happened that night. Some rational. Some far darker. One of the earliest theories suggested a mass-coordinated disappearance. That the passengers had somehow agreed to vanish together, leaving behind no trace. But the question remained, why? And how could hundreds of people simply walk away from a moving train, unnoticed? The government experiment. Others believe the answer lies in secrecy. That the train was part of a government experiment. Some whisper it was connected to military projects, experiments in teleportation, mind control, or mass hypnosis. Did the passengers vanish because they were taken, erased from reality, or hidden away forever? The time slip theory. Then there are the stories of time. That on that journey, the train passed through something unnatural. A rift, a fold, a doorway. Perhaps the passengers didn't disappear at all. Perhaps they're still on that train, forever traveling through a place where time doesn't move as we know it. Some say the train was cursed. That it crossed paths with something beyond our understanding. Witnesses claimed the air felt heavy when the train pulled in. That a shadow hung over it. And when investigators stepped aboard, they swore the seats were still warm, as though someone had been sitting there only moments before. The urban legend twist. A few researchers argue the story is nothing more than an urban legend, a tale passed from town to town, growing with each retelling. But then, how do you explain the photographs, the eyewitness accounts, the official reports that, strangely, were later sealed and locked away? And then there's the theory almost no one dares to speak of, that the train wasn't traveling through our world at all, that for one journey, it belonged to something else, that the passengers weren't just missing, they were claimed. The truth remains buried. But the theories only deepen the mystery, because the more you look at them, the more impossible it becomes to decide which is the most terrifying. Some mysteries fade with time, but others grow stronger. The empty train is one of those stories. Even decades later, the legend refuses to disappear. In recent years, reports have surfaced of phantom trains, silent locomotives passing through stations with no passengers. Security guards, night workers, and late-night travelers all claim to have seen them. One guard swore he watched a train roll through his station, the windows filled with shadowy figures. But when the train stopped, the cars were empty. Sometimes, paranormal investigators have tried to trace the case. Some believe the original train itself still exists, hidden in a locked yard, covered in rust and ivy. Others insist it was quietly dismantled, piece by piece, as though someone wanted to erase it from history. But they couldn't erase the story, and they couldn't erase the fear. Every theory leaves more questions. If it was a government cover-up, where did the passengers go? If it was a time slip, are they still out there, forever traveling on a track that no longer exists? And if it was something darker, is it possible they were taken, not vanished? The urban legend. On forums, in documentaries, even in late-night conversations, the story is told again and again. The train with no passengers. A story too strange to forget. Some even say, if you listen closely at night, you can hear it. A whistle on the wind. The faint sound of wheels rolling on tracks that no longer exist. A train that arrives, but no one ever leaves. So the question remains, where did they go? Were they taken, hidden, erased? Or are they still out there, passengers on a journey with no end? And perhaps the real question is not where they went, but when the train might return. Because one day, you might be standing on a quiet platform, the night air heavy, the tracks humming beneath your feet. And when the train finally pulls in, you might realize too late that it isn't meant to take you where you want to go. It's meant to take you where they went. If this story sent chills down your spine, comment, "I heard the whistle."